Hi everyone, my name is Kelsey and I am with ShipShape Arizona. Today I will be taking you through a simple upper body stretch break. So you will be needing a blanket, especially if you have some sensitive knees, as we will be in tabletop position. Also, if you have a foam roller or blocks, definitely grab that. You can always just use a blanket as well, one or two blankets usually is good enough to do, and I'll show you how you can do that if you don't have the foam roller. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of just get started. So find a comfortable seated position. I like to sit on a little bit of height, one because it helps even out the sitting bones, but also puts a lot of the weight out of pressure into that low back so you can sit up nice and tall. So let's just take a moment to kind of center ourselves before we get into this practice. So just gently close the eyes. Let the hands rest either palm up or they can go palm down, depending on how you're feeling and what's comfortable for you in this moment. Start breathing into that belly. Calm ourselves down. Sometimes, you never know what's going to happen during the day. Whatever part of the day that you have or in right now, just remember you can kind of come back to this moment. Focus on relaxing, relieving that upper body tension. Remember, we need to do this. Really begin breathing into that belly, letting things go every time that you exhale. Take a few more breaths on your own, nice full inhalations and long exhalations. Really calm the mind and let whatever thoughts come, just come. They're there, but let them just float away. When we're ready, gently open up the eyes and welcome back, my friends. Now we're going to start out with the neck. So just kind of make sure that our shoulder blades are down and back. We want to be sitting up nice and tall. We're going to take our right hand and bring it up over to our left ear. Now we're going to try to pull our ear to our shoulder, not bring our shoulder to our ear. So really, again, find that nice tall posture and just bring that ear to that shoulder. Now you can always sit on your hand if you need that extra little pull there, or you can always clench the fist behind the back and extend the arm, which also helps loosen up this muscle. This works the upper trap a little bit and kind of into the shoulder area here, which are a little bit tender from sitting on the computer all day long. And just hold, try to apply as much pressure as you need to, kind of that Goldilocks pressure. It doesn't hurt, but it's not where you're, oh, I don't feel anything movement. From here, we're just going to look down at a 45-degree angle. I like to say looking towards the knee, but you could also think about this as trying to sniff your armpit. However you want to think about doing this. This will target more of the back of the neck and towards that really big area of that upper trap. Really just give a nice little pull, a little bit of pressure. Again, you can sit on the hand or clench the fist and extend out, depending on how you're feeling and where you're feeling it. And gently come up through the side, release the right hand, and come back through center. Now, you can already kind of tell, ooh, this side's a little bit better, definitely on that left side. You can roll out the shoulders a little bit, shake it out. Now we're going to stretch out that right shoulder. So I'm going to take my left hand up towards my right ear, and same thing, ear to shoulder, not shoulder to ear. And again, make sure you're sitting up nice and tall. The more height you have underneath you, the more comfortable it tends to be to sit a little bit taller and gets you up out of your sitting bones. So more than one blanket. If you have yoga blocks, you can definitely sit on your foam roller if you have it. But however you need, whatever you need. Stretch again. On the same thing on this side if you need to. You can sit on the hand or you can extend it on out into that fist. This side might be a little bit more loose than the other, and you'll notice that more often than so. And always try to maintain that nice even posture. We're going to look down at our knee at a 45-degree angle. Or try to sniff your armpit. Whichever one you need to think about to help out. And feeling that stretch kind of in the back of the neck and maybe down a little bit towards the side here, the side of the neck. You really want to stretch these areas out because they are super tender just from sitting all day at the computer, driving, wherever. This is our moment. And slowly come back up to center. We're going to do one more neck stretch. So I'm going to have you interlace your fingers and we're going to place them onto the back of the head. We're going to keep this nice tall spine here and just chin to chest and let the weight of the hands kind of bring your head closer to your chest. So we're really hitting both of the trap muscles that hit onto the back of the neck, which can sometimes get really, really tight and cause us tension headaches. So wherever you kind of need to rest and feel that little extra pressure. Make sure not to round the spine down. We want to stay nice and tall here. Otherwise, it loses a lot of effects of the stretch. And when you're ready, slowly release the hands and slowly let the head come back up. And let's extend the chin up. Kind of counter movement. Bring it to center. Let's look left and right. Really easy and simple. Beautiful. All right. We're going to come into a tabletop position. So again, if you have those sensitive knees here, it's really good to have a blanket, or if you're on hard floors too, have that blanket thrown out across the mat and kind of just set your knees on there. And this gives that extra little bit of cushion here. So that way, when we go back into stay in this pose for or stay in this area for a very long time, we're not going to be hurting. Now, if it still hurts with that blanket and your kneecaps are just like, this isn't happening, you can fold the blanket up as much as you want. And then off the clean edge of the mat or off your blanket, we can rest our shins on the blanket. Come here, so that way it takes all this pressure off of the kneecap area. Whatever feels a little bit easier for you. We're going to do a couple rounds of cat-cow. So make sure in that tabletop position, our wrists are underneath our shoulders and our knees are underneath our hips, about fist width distance apart from each other. That's usually about the width of your inner hip muscles. So just a little bit of cat-cow here. We're going to inhale, tip the tailbone up, drop the belly, lift the head. Exhale, tuck the tailbone under, round the spine, let the head come down. And inhale, lift that tailbone, drop the belly, head comes up. Exhale, tuck that tailbone, round the spine, let the head drop. Now with your own breath, continue with that cat-cow. Really good for the spine, kind of opening up. You can take a little bit of extra movement here if you need to. Kind of shake the hips side to side, open up the side body. More towards that shoulder rounding or that low back round. Whatever you need to do. Kind of just continue on. About 3 more breaths in this cat and cow. Inhaling to cow. Exhaling to cat. And after your final pat, you want to find a nice neutral spine. So come back into that tabletop position here. And we are just going to go into doing thread the needle. So we're going to make sure that we're still in that nice, beautiful tabletop position, wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. I'm going to extend my right arm out long, and then I'm just going to swoop it underneath my left, letting my shoulder and my head with my ear to the floor. Coming underneath here, and I'm trying to shift the weight. So I might shift it a little bit over to the left side. We're going to try to make sure we shift it over into the right so it's nice and even. If you're shifted over into the right too much, try to shift it into the middle. We really want those hips nice and even because we're just going to slowly sink back a little bit, not too much, just maybe a few inches. We're not going all the way down into child. Now, options here, you can take your left arm, extend it out long, and come up into a half bind, or you can keep it exactly where it's at, depending on how your body's feeling today. I'm going to take my arm out nice and long. That feels kind of good for me. You're going to feel this stretch in your upper back and kind of into that lat area. So kind of in this area right here. You all can see it. Your arm is out long or in a bind. Go ahead, place the hand underneath the shoulder and lift yourself up out. Find that neutral spine again. Maybe shake it out a little bit, move from side to side. We're going to go towards the other side. So left hand out towards the side, swoop it underneath the right. Let that shoulder come down, let the head come down. Shift the weight, so make sure that you have some nice even hips here. And then sink back just ever so slightly until you feel the stretch. Really make sure that arm is jetting out directly from your shoulder socket. We don't want it up, we don't want it down. We want it nice, straight, almost in that T position. And again, make sure if you want to, you can extend that arm long or take that beautiful half bind. And on this side, I think I'm going to extend my arms a little bit long so it feels good. And again, we're targeting that upper back and maybe a little bit into that lat area. Really, again, want to make sure those hips are nice and even. This is going to help deepen the stretch out. When you're ready, if your hand's extended long or in a half bind, bring it back underneath the shoulder. Lift yourself up and come back to tabletop. We're going to do a quick forearm stretch. If any of you have been to my stretch break classes, you'll definitely know this is one of my favorites. From this tabletop, we're just going to take our hands and turn them to face towards us. Now, your palms of your hand may come onto the floor like mine are, or they may not. If they're a little bit higher, try either at a 45-degree angle, which will still get you that stretch, or you can take a blanket and put it a little bit up right here so that way it kind of helps to cushion it. Whichever movement you need, and if none of those are really working for you or you're like, this is super intense, go ahead and come up to here to where you're holding your hand and fingers there. But really, this stretch right here is what's going to be the best for you in this forearm. And really make sure, if you're like me who has hypermobile joints, you give a little bit of a bend in them. This really also helps deepen that stretch and make sure that you're targeting the muscles that you need to and not just like letting yourself hang out here. My elbows are a little bit weird. So my physical therapist says. I laugh at that arm rotation that I got, but it's okay. Not everybody has it. So that's why it's really important to make sure I give a little bit of that extra muscular action in my upper arms so that way I don't hurt myself. So definitely if you have those hypermobile joints, get there. If you don't, find your position, find your movement. Yes, this is an intense stretch, and it's meant to be that intense. All right. A few more breaths, kind of easy breathing. Ready to keep breathing. Don't hold your breath ever when you're stretching. Gets to be too much. All right. Slowly unravel your hands. Take a seat real fast and kind of just shake it out. Ooh. Roll the wrist a little bit because again, it's a little bit intense, but it's really good to stretch out that part of the wrist, especially when we're doing this all day long. Right, meet me back in tabletop when you're ready. We're gonna have the big toes touching. We're gonna take the knees out. They can be as wide as the mat or they can be close in together, depending on how you're feeling. We're gonna go back into a child's pose. So sink the hips down. Don't worry if your glutes don't touch your heels. We're just gonna let that stomach kind of reside in that space in between the legs or on the legs, depending on where you're at. And we're gonna reach the arms out nice and long. We're gonna make sure they're really extended. We're gonna give a little push into those fingertips. So our hips sit back just a little bit more, and we're gonna stretch out the back into the side waist here. Take a couple breaths. Really nice and easy. Just relax a little bit. We're gonna look up between our thumbs. Lift our fingers up on their tippy fingers. You can't say tippy toes, but on the tips of our fingers. And we're gonna slowly move our hands over to the left side. We're gonna make sure our right arm tries to reach a little bit farther than our left. And we're gonna sink that right hip down. This is gonna help stretch out this beautiful side body here and really open it up. Try breathing into the side body a little bit more. The right side body. That helps lengthen the stretch. So again, keep breathing. Don't hold that breath. Help loosen it up. And we're ready. Look up between those thumbs. Come up on those fingertips. Come through center. Let's go over to that right side. Left hand a little bit longer than the right. Try to reach a little bit more with that left. Sink that left hip towards the ground. Really feel the opening up on that left side body. Begin to breathe into it to help the stretch. You're ready. Look up through those fingertips. Come back to center. Back into child pose. When we're ready, let's come back up into tabletop. Bring the knees underneath the hips. And that foam roller, let's grab that. Now, if you don't have a foam roller, you can take a blanket or two. Now, mine's a little bit thick, so I'm only going to use one to kind of show you how to do this. But you're just going to take the blanket and roll it up. We want a longer, skinnier blanket. You're just going to roll it nice and tight, and you can use this as a foam roller for anything that we're going to do from here on out with it. Okay? Kind of just set that aside if you need to. So have it next to you. I'm going to demonstrate all on this foam roller so that way you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. But use the blanket We are going to place our hands in front of that foam roller, and we're going to kind of do what I like to call puppy dog, which is just a smaller version of downward dog. So it's real easy to do with the foam roller because you can kind of just roll on into this, but we're going to place our forearms down onto it. Fingertips are going to be touching, and we're just going to come into this nice little bend. So our hips are going to go back just a little bit, like up and back, and we're going to let our shoulders kind of just sink down. Our heart's going to still melt into the mat. Hands can be touching the ground. We really want to make sure the back is nice and straight, so try not to round at all and let yourself just sink down. Really open up the shoulders. That is the purpose of this, and help stretch the chest out as well. If your head touches the ground, that's okay. If it doesn't, you can always take a mat, a blanket, a block, whatever you have, and kind of reach up to that height. You're going to stretch out those upper back muscles. This is really nice. When you're ready, slowly come on up. Beautiful. All right, we are going to do one of my favorite things, which is a chest opener with the foam roller. Or if you're on the blanket, this will also be really great for you too. So we're going to turn our foam roller perpendicular to the edge, short edge of the mat. A little bit tight. If you're like me and you have a shorter foam roller that's going to not make it all the way down from the top of the head to the base of the spine, go ahead and grab a blanket or something that has a little bit of height, and you can stick it on the end of this. If you have a shorter blanket, that's okay. Just grab another blanket too as well. So kind of making this T shape here. Now we really want to make sure our head is supported on the foam roller. So we're going to sit on our butt, come onto the back, slowly kind of align ourselves. Now you might need to adjust it. This foam roller is going to come all the way down through my spine, and I'm just going to be resting on it. We're not going to roll or move one way or another. So we're just coming here. I'm going to keep my feet bent, but if you want to, you can extend the legs a little bit long. This kind of helps out open up the hips as well, which we'll get to in a minute. That actually helps the low back. Now from here on this foam roller, we're just going to take our arms out into a T. Don't worry, hopefully you have the room. If you need to, you can always come into a cactus position here too as well. Just kind of makes it really easy, really simple. Go into this position. We're just going to lay here for a couple minutes and let the chest open up. You're going to feel this kind of in this upper chest area, maybe a little bit into the shoulders, mostly because of where things are connected. This kind of hits that beautiful chest muscle, but also the pec minor. So that hits the pec major and the pec minor, which is a small muscle that kind of runs in between this armpit, which gets really tight. And the reason we like to target or open up the chest muscle is because a lot of our upper back pain might actually be from overly tight chest muscles from, again, that hunched shoulder, typing, at our computer all day position, which is not uncommon in today's society and today's world. Now, with the arms, we're just going to raise them up just a little bit up into kind of a Y shape almost. So we're not all the way up overhead. We're at a nice little Y, almost like we're trying to do the YMCA here. Really opening up some of the angles of the other parts of the chest. We're going to hit that I. We're also going to hit the M. Kind of, we're definitely just going to go with the Y in this way. Just coming up. Again, just let your body sink into it and keep up with that breath. A little bit uncomfortable. I promise it's not going to last, and you're going to feel very good afterwards, and your chest is going to feel so open. Hopefully it makes your day just a little bit better. We're going to move up into that I position, so hands directly up overhead. Make sure you got nothing behind you like I do, or up touching your fingertips. So with your hands in the eye, with your arms in the eye position, really make sure that you're not punching those shoulder blades up towards the ear. We want them relaxed down and around that foam roller or the blanket, depending on where you're at. The reason it's nice to do this on a foam roller is that it has that extra little bit of height and a little bit of firmness. Sometimes with a blanket, if you lay across it for too long, it can sometimes squish up a little bit. So if you feel that happening, go ahead and fluff the blanket. That way it stays where it needs to. Right, but we're going to take the arms down and we're going to bring them down into an M. So 45-degree angle facing down, so opposite of a Y. As the A, we're going to do an M down towards the arms. And again, just let those arms relax on down. This might not be a deep stretch, but it can help relax the body a little bit more. Sometimes it's just good to sit here and lay on the foam roller for a little bit of time. All right, let's bring the hands close in. Find somewhere where you can kind of help assist yourself up to a seated position. Now, if you have that blanket underneath, go ahead and move it just to the side. We're going to take that foam roller and we're going to use it long ways this time. We're going to open up the hips, which will help loosen up the low back a little bit, especially in that hip flexor area. This area is kind of important. So what I like to do, especially if you have a foam roller, considering that rules, we're just going to sit our sacrum, that lovely little triangle, onto that foam roller, and then we're just going to slowly bring ourselves down onto the mat. So the shoulder blades onto the mat, and you can kind of flop down. Just try not to hurt yourself slowly coming down into this. Now, your blanket, you're just going to place the blanket right underneath the sacrum part again. And then we're just going to extend the legs nice and long and let ourselves just relax. This really targets those hip flexors, which get really tight throughout the day, again, within that sitting position. So just kind of relax. Legs, the heels can kind of flop open, or the feet can kind of flop open. Your arms can be out by the sides. They can rest on your stomach. Whatever you need to kind of just feel comfortable in this moment. Going into this supported bridge, and it's again really good for that low back area to kind of help loosen it up a little bit more. And again, loosen up those hip flexors. Just pull too much can actually crunch up that low back too much. Nice couple of deep breaths. Feel good in this moment. You're ready. Slowly bend into the feet. Make sure the feet are flat onto the floor. We're going to lift our hips up just a tiny bit. Slide that foam roller or blanket out from underneath you. You can also use yoga blocks for this. Just slide on down. Going to roll onto our side and press ourselves up, coming into a seated position. And that is it. Thank you for joining me for this upper body stretch today. Check out all of our other on-demand classes right here with any other ShipShape team members, and we hope to see you again and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.